Hi, this is Syreta Talks once more back with Survivalist Tactics Speaking. And I've got my lovely co host once more, Evan Foster, and we're excited to jump right in and start talking about some issues and some triumphs over adversity. That's what I'm going to be telling you this whole series is triumph over your adversity. You can make it. All right, Evan, what are we talking about today besides that?
Well, we're going to pick up right where we left off last week
Sounds
and
good.
really continue on with the questions, getting to know Sarita,
Yeah.
getting to know how her mindset has evolved and how we can also use those resources to help ourselves in our daily lives.
Very
So,
much.
you know, we have a lot of negative thought patterns just that have been ingrained in us throughout society for different reasons. And um, how can someone identify those negative thought patterns and then kind of take a step back and reassess? How can you do that?
That's an excellent question because my thought patterns were just based on unrealistic expectations, and that's really what led me on this path to end up in prison. I had the unrealistic expectation that, money was just going to fall into my lap. I had the unrealistic expectation that I could find love in worlds that were not conducive to people having a healthy relationship. And the only thing that really helped me to change that, it did change my mindset, was when I went to jail and I realized all of the decisions and choices that I had made that ultimately led me there. I used to tell women when I was inside, because it was a big thing, you're in prison, you most likely don't have the best boyfriend or husband. And I would say, you're telling me these stories of someone beating on you, someone feeding you drugs, of someone human trafficking you, because these are normalities within the facility. And I said, you're going to end up like me. You're going to end up in here for a long time if you keep going back there. And I would also say, I didn't expect this. Who wakes up and says, I'm going to jail today and I'm going to spend 15 years of my life in prison? No, that's not how it goes. That's not how that goes. Not at all. I was just trucking through my life. I knew I wasn't living life right. I knew that I was always going back to this individual. I was always going back. And, there's some statistics that say that women are 7 times more likely to go back to their abuser before they finally leave. And I would tell people as well, I begged to catch that case. I went to Atlanta and was doing so good, and then I wanted to be in love, and I wanted him to see me doing so good. So he flew down there. Next thing you know, I was right back in Kansas City. Bad things happened. Bad things happened. I got on a bus. I ended up ultimately in Northern California, but I ended up coming back because at this time I had been started on a raging addiction, which, somebody can introduce you to something, but ultimately you were willing. So, yeah. So at this point, I was hopelessly addicted to drugs, and I was hopelessly, going back for, one reason or another. Either I wanted to be in love or I was afraid of, what would happen when I came back to Kansas City if I wasn't involved in this. And so the only thing that got me away from all that was to sit down and think about what had led me up to that point and all the signs that I had that it wasn't going well. And we'll touch on this later, but sometimes feelings come over you and they always say, trust your gut. I really feel like God was talking to me the first time I met this man, because we were just having a good time talking. And, he was like, I'm shy, I'm from the country. But the way this man got up and walked out of where we were, this feeling came over me and it said, be afraid. You need to be afraid of him. Do not trust him. But as time went on and more drugs got involved, you know, I just went back to that mindset. Money's going to fall in your lap. You're going to find love. You're going to have all these things, and you're going to be willing to put up with horrendous abuse. So until I got out of that situation, I could not change my mindset.
Sounds like you had that major wake up call
Oh,
when you were
yeah.
facing that many years.
Uh huh.
And then there was a combination of that and then realizing the need to take accountability.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like both of those are sort of what have.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, do you feel like that a wake up call that big is necessary, or can someone catch themselves, hear that voice that's telling them, "Watch out for this person"? Can someone catch themselves
Mm-hmm.
and really make the shift then?
Evan, that's why I really like you so much, because that is an excellent question. There was a series of choices and decisions that I made. Okay, because I remember another time after I'd met this man, I was going to get my hair done, and I was, getting hair extensions. They called from my son's school and said, "Hey, your son is sick. You need to come pick him up." And he stood up and said, "I'll go get him." I said, "Absolutely not. Give me a hat." Because I didn't want him around my child. So these were early signs, but then years had passed. So let me tell you this: if you're in a position where something is wrong, don't keep doing that. That translates over everything that can happen in your life. If you're at a job, because this has happened to me, and you just know that this is not where I need to be, get out of it. If you're in a relationship and you know this is not where I need to be, get out of it. If you're doing things in your life that you know are not conducive to your success, stop. Stop. Because I did all three of those things. And I'll tie the job in there. I was extremely wrapped up in adult entertainment and the things that went along with that. So I had a job I knew was not conducive to my success. I had a man I knew that was absolutely a terrible individual and was treating me so badly. And I knew that the decisions and choices I were making, once more, decisions, choices. If you know it's wrong, don't do it. Stop it. It's easier said than done.
It is, but I feel like that's the moment that you need to make the change.
Absolutely.
When you hear the voice.
Absolutely. And if it's my voice, listen to it. You keep on down the same path, you might lose so many years of your life. But I use those years as formative. I wouldn't give up on myself. So there's a lot of verbiage that says tried by fire. Yeah, I went through the fire. But not everybody should have to or needs to.
Well, really, before we move on, to really build off of what you just said about, how many years that just one action, one choice can really take away that much time from you. It can, but I also want to say to the audience that it's not over until you're 6 feet under.
That's right.
Until then, you can always make that change.
Absolutely. And you can help to change others. I was in a bad way with a lot of time in front of me, but I was able to, like I said, tell people, like, you're telling me these stories, this ain't right. You're going to end up like me or you're going to end up dead. Because in my story, I always thought I would be the one to die. And this is the honest to God truth. My sister, when I called and they had seen me on the news, and she said, "I'm just so happy you're alive. I was waiting for them to call me and tell me you were dead."
How did
that feel?
Yeah. It's a hard question. We can move on if we need to.
No. Hard questions are what it's about. In that moment, I just felt so sorry. So sorry for my family that I had put them for I don't know how many years. They were thinking someone would call them and tell them that I had died. And they were happy that I was in jail. That right there is an interesting dichotomy.
It's like that might have communicated to you that, as hard of a realization as it may have been, that's sort of the safest place that you could have been.
Absolutely.
Wow.
That's powerful.
Evan?
Well,
we're going to keep on moving along. We've got a little more to get to, but that was deep. Well, so, you shared, I think it was in our first episode that we recorded, you shared about how, when Syreta first got out of prison and just how profound it was to see a squirrel.
Oh, Oh,
And
yeah.
we go about our everyday lives. We see hundreds, maybe not hundreds, but dozens of squirrels and don't even think about it. And
Oh, it was. Listen, I had my phone. I learned how to take pictures. I was taking pictures of the squirrel. And I was talking to him too. I was like, get it. Go run up that tree. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, click, click, click. The have that, just that feeling of animals. I remember driving back. My son came and got me, and there were cows. And I was just like stuck in he drove my parents' car, and they had really dark tint on their windows. I don't know why. They're both 70 and 80. But I was like, roll the window down. And it was a windy day, but I wanted to see everything. And then there were deer that happened to cross that weekend down a road that me and my son were going down. And it was just like, pow, you're here now. You're on the other side of the gate.
you'd come back to life.
Yes,
Come back to life.
gratitude. Gratitude. And remember what I said. Why don't people realize it?
Yeah, why don't we realize it?
Because you
And
have it every day.
well,
So you take it for granted.
Syreta, how long have you been back with us?
Since September the 2nd of 2022.
Okay, now that is 14 months.
Yeah.
You still seem to have that same appreciation. How do you maintain that? And
I
how can
always
someone
will.
how can someone who hasn't gone through that, who hasn't lost it, how can we be more mindful and have that appreciation?
Well, let me tell you right now, this is the easiest thing that I can tell someone who is maybe going through issues in their life, sadness, depression. Think about somebody is doing a lot worse than you. I know people that are sitting and have been sitting in the penitentiary since 1981. I know another woman who has been in the penitentiary since the 90s. These are old women. They are grandparents. Uh, they'd be hard pressed to make it to their mailbox to get their Social Security check, much less hurt someone. Um, I know someone right now that maybe doesn't have anything to eat until they call mainline or what they call chow, and it's at 5 a.m. in the morning. That's what time you get to eat your breakfast. It's 11:45 in the afternoon. If anyone knows anything about metabolism, not conducive to you not being hungry by the next meal, which is 5. Think about that. Think about there's someone right now that would love to open the door to wherever they live and go outside, but they can't. I feel like that's a good stopping point.
It is. It's very sobering. It's very
It's
sobering.
very true. And I want to point out things like that throughout our conversations. Evan, I appreciate you so very much. Evan's going to take a little break. I plan on having some really, really effective, capable, and qualified individuals come in over the next 3 weeks to talk about their experiences and how they were able to help others. So I can't wait till you come back, Evan.
I look forward to returning, and I'm excited to see the people you're bringing on.
All right. Well, take care. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your continued support. And I just want you to know that there's someone that cares about you and has never even met you. It's me. You're taking the time to listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. And I want you to apply that because there's someone always somewhere who is desiring the things that you are taking for granted.